Hey guys, check it out. You're watching Jonathan Clarke on YouTube. Oh no! Many of you who have been with me from the very beginning have watched this YouTube channel grow into something so special for every fan of Descendants of Zombies because of how much you believed in this YouTube channel and how much you trusted me for great reviews of your favorite stars. To be that one guy who would always say something nice about somebody that you loved, such as Kylie Cantrell, Dove Cameron, Ruby Rose Turner, Malia Baker, because I understood where you guys were coming from and how much you loved them yourself with all of your heart. And I've taken great pride in recording the videos that I have and the stories that I've shared with you about how much I loved mermaids and how much I loved witches and pirates and dragons. And it was just so fun bringing this story to life in a way that no other content creator ever could for you guys, because they didn't seem to have that appreciation from within their hearts and their souls about Descendants of Zombies. Now, this may have come at the expense of a guy who believed that everything that he saw on TV was real when he was really young, because believe you me, when I tell you that I believed everything that I saw on TV was real, I really did. And if there was one guy who believed in witches and vampires and werewolves and dragons and everything else thrown in there, it was this guy. And I always took away, no matter what I watched or how much I was freaked out by it, I always took away a greater appreciation for what I was watching. And sometimes some of the stuff at a really young age, between I'd say the ages of 7 through 12 years old, watching some of that stuff would really freak you out. From alien abduction shows to shows about vampires, how dragons could be real mythological creatures that could just come to life just as fast as you could snap your fingers. So, because I always had a greater appreciation for fairy tales and their mythological aspects, bringing this channel to life was such a joy for me, because it led me on this journey where I not only had the chance to talk about Descendants of Zombies, it led me to all of you, and many of you became some of my best friends, because some of you have been with me from the very first video that I ever created. You guys saw something special in my voice and the stories I share with you guys, and you made me a part of this soundtrack. Falling into a niche sometimes is very difficult for a content creator to do, because you never know what niche you're going to fall into. You just start talking about stuff you love. Like for me, years ago, it was pro wrestling, because as I just said, everything I saw on TV was real. So one of the first things I tried my hand at was talking about pro wrestling. In some way or somehow, I ended up becoming involved with the wrestling industry for a number of years. That was one of my first gigs. And I quickly realized that, even with how passionate I was about pro wrestling, the thing that I ultimately was more passionate about was Disney and its characters. And what I wanted to do was I always wanted to showcase my passion for Disney. I never had any idea how I would ever be able to do it, and I didn't know it was going to happen in the form of a YouTube channel. But after I broke away from the wrestling industry and they let me go, the one thing I was excited about was to come home and share my stories with you guys about all these wonderful characters Disney had created. You guys know there have been over 15,000 Disney characters created over the last 100 years. And that's a lot of characters. When you really sit back and think about that, you will say, geez, Jonathan, that's a lot more characters than there are wrestlers out there in this world. You got that right. 15,000 characters are a lot of people to talk about. A lot of incredible people who brought those characters to life. One of them we will never ever forget. Of course, Mickey Mouse touched a very special place in our hearts with the stories that he shared with all the friends that he made, such as Donald Duck, Goofy, and how he fell in love with Mickey Mouse. As you see, they're on display in my videos. I love talking about Mickey Mouse and sharing stories about him. And my passion for Disney eventually led me to all of you and sharing stories about how much Dove Cameron touched my heart for this beautiful character, Mal, that she brought to life, and who eventually became Kylie Cantrell, who once had a dream to be a part of this franchise. To the people who criticize Kylie Cantrell without ever presenting her much of a chance, I think if you actually sit back and put this into perspective, she is still really young. And she still has a long way to go. I remember when she was so excited to premiere her YouTube channel. It was called Hello Kylie. Do you guys remember the date that show premiered? It was May 1st, 2014, in case you didn't know. On May 1st, 2014, she reviewed Zendaya's song Replay, a song she loved with all of her heart. And she also reviewed a show that I was a big fan of, Sam and Cat. And when I tell you I was a really big fan of Sam and Cat, oh man, was I ever a huge fan of Sam and Cat. It was a shame that that show ended within its first season and they only got 35 episodes. But I remember the night that Sam and Cat was canceled. I was sitting at home because I was a loser, and I was listening to it on my radio, and then all of a sudden the news bulletin comes on that Sam and Cat had been canceled at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I remember feeling lost for words because I remember being such a huge fan of Ariana Grande, thinking she was one of the most beautiful and by far one of the most talented people that I had ever reviewed in my life. I obviously saw something special and always took something special away from Ariana Grande's work. I saw her in Wicked, she blew my mind. I saw her in Victorious, which eventually became Sam and Cat, the spin-off series, and she blew my mind. Everything she ever did musically and as an actress blew my mind. And the thing is, no matter who I was a fan of or who I talked about on my show, the one thing I realized was I never wanted to let go. And I never wanted to say goodbye to who I loved and what I appreciated, which eventually became all of you and this passion we share in for Descendants and Zombies. Because no matter what characters we talk about, who we celebrate all the time and who we forever honor, who we will never ever forget, every character has a story. No matter who they are, where they come from, what their situation is, how many times their heart's been broken because of something they probably can't understand because they're still relatively really young. No matter who they are, they all have a story. And what do you think that character wants more than anything else in this lifetime? For that story to be heard and seen by more people than they ever imagined possible and to be accepted. Because sometimes in this world, finding acceptance and achieving that is very difficult to do because people feel very differently. And obviously people have felt very differently about Descendants when it comes to these really ridiculous reviews. So the one thing I wanted to do, even though I was the biggest loser ever and spent all my money on video games, was I wanted to stop laughing. I wanted to create a YouTube channel that would touch somebody's heart because that's the only hope that a content creator ever has. Even if they don't, he or she never admits to you that the only hope they've ever had is that you guys are going to click on their thumbnail, watch their video, and think they're the coolest person ever because they shared a story with you through the power of their voice and the power of video production. You know, years ago, many of you are probably too young to remember this, but YouTube, probably some of you are. But YouTube was really, it wasn't the best. They had this huge web marker down in the left-hand corner of the video. You could only record a video that could only be up to 10 minutes in length, and you couldn't really go the distance with the stories you were sharing. You couldn't really be a storyteller, which is something I always wanted to be. I always wanted to have the chance to tell a story, and I know there's probably a zombie apocalypse happening outside my window, but I haven't checked yet. I haven't prepared myself for what's going to happen later on tonight because, of course, as many of you who have been subscribed here for a very long time, the noises that you hear there, I've lived here on this island where there are only two ways off of it, which I've often, put forth, by boat that could sink, crash, and explode, or by plane that could sink, crash, and explode, and I do apologize for that. I also apologize for thinking I've lived in a haunted house for forever. Many people have tried to convince me that this house was haunted, although I can't say I ever believed them, and I've lived here ever since, and I've never left because this provided me with the perfect opportunity, and also living near a soda plantation and a chemical plant was quite convenient because that's what the story of zombies revolved around. The thing is, whatever you can do to bring videos to life, you should. And whatever you believe in and whatever you're passionate about, whether it be the music, whether it be the stories of the characters that you've loved and certainly appreciated, such as Nova Bright, who is a beautiful character, who still has a long way to go. She's still relatively young. I mean, what do you know at 16 years old? Don't even know if you're coming or going. I know that when I was 16 years old, the only thing I was concerned about was beating Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty on PlayStation 2, and that game was released forever ago. I just recently bought the remastered version of that on PlayStation 5, but nonetheless, at 16 years old, you don't really know if you're coming or going or what your biggest dream is. All you know is that you have a dream, whatever the dream is, and you want it to become a reality. In Freya's case, she had a karaoke machine at 5 years old. I never got into karaoke until I was probably 20. But, I think she sings more beautiful karaoke songs than what I ever sang, because the only thing I could ever sing was Johnny Cash, Folsom Prison Blues. That was the only song that was ever a hit for me. I was kind of a one-hit wonder, but I've heard the stories about how Freya used to sing at 5 years old, and I remember feeling so inspired by her heart and her dedication, because all she ever wanted to do was entertain all of you. She wanted to dedicate her life to putting smiles on your faces and to make your hearts beat a little bit faster. And you guys fell in love with Freya's message, and you fell in love with her image, you fell in love with the characters that she played on Wizards Beyond Waverly Place, which is a series that's seeing its series finale this summer, which is going to be a really emotional time for all of us, because I was always a huge fan of Wizards of Waverly Place. I have never denied that. Biggest fan ever of Selena Gomez. Loved her to death. And, I've just never wanted to say goodbye to that. And now we see her growing into this beautiful character, just 16 years old, still with a long way to go. So, as reviewers, what we should do is find time in encouraging that and appreciating how far people like Freya have come. Now I know there are a lot of reviewers out there that can't go as long as what I can about talking about Freya Sky and Kylie Control because they obviously don't see something as special as what I have, and many of you who are watching this video tonight have seen in people like Freya and Kylie. But the thing is, guys, to remember dates like May 1st being the date that Kylie Control's Hello Kylie show on YouTube premiered back in 2014, you've got to be a diehard fan. You know, a lot of people have the Descendants of Zombies posters as part of their backdrop. A lot of people have the merch on display because they want to talk about how much money they spent or what they thought of the Worlds Collide tour. But what it comes down to is how much heart a person has and how they tell the story of how they became a fan. That may have happened for me because girls showed up at my door every year on Halloween dressed up as their favorite Descendants character. And I spent hours trying to figure out who they were. And they'd be like, guess again. And I'd say, I don't know, guess again. And I'd be like, I don't know, guess again. And then finally I would figure it out. And then they would try to convince me to record videos about Descendants of Zombies. I had no idea that these videos were going to be so well received, but that's what happened. Most people just sit in front of the camera, say, okay, Descendants looks cool. I've never watched it before. I'll review it. I'll watch it on Disney Plus while I'm reviewing it on YouTube and see how it goes. And that's how it happens. And that's probably the only video they ever record about Descendants of Zombies. Nobody in their right mind would record over 120,000 videos about Descendants of Zombies like I have. And that's a lot of videos. But the thing is, I do it because I know how much Descendants of Zombies means to you guys. And you're probably saying to yourself, hey, Jonathan Clarke, 120,000 channel views is a lot, videos to record. It is. It's a lot of videos because a mere fraction of people who record videos about Descendants of Zombies never go big. I've always wanted to go big or go home. And for some reason or somehow, I've always become everybody's favorite content creator. I've always come out on the other side as everybody's favorite because of how I could tell these stories and how I could bring them to life. Now, I have no idea how I'd ever become everybody's favorite action hero in Descendants, but that doesn't mean that I don't want to be everybody's favorite action hero. I would love the chance to be a knight in shining armor. I would love the chance to become Prince Charming, because you only ever have so many opportunities to bring characters to life, and only ever so many opportunities to really appreciate the moments and the roles that you don. And that's what I saw with Kylie Control. I saw somebody who appreciated this character Red, who just wanted her character to be well received, just as well received as Dove Cameron, because just a couple of days ago she did some PR for Descendants Wicked Wonderland, which has already begun. And the first thing she mentioned was how Dove Cameron, over 10 years ago, was one of the first girls to record a ballad for Descendants. It was called If Only. And right away she makes this comparison to her ballad, which we've never seen or heard before, which we're going to see for the first time in Descendants Wicked Wonderland. And she compares her ballad and her performance to Dove Cameron, which she referred to as such legendary performances and criteria. Can we please give Kylie Control a chance and say that her ballad could be just as beautiful, even if not more beautiful than what Dove Cameron's ever was? Because as far as I'm concerned, Kylie Control never quit on us. So because Kylie Control's always wanted to be a part of things like High School Musical and Descendants, why can't we just put her up there with people like Dove Cameron? I know there are diehard fans of Dove Cameron out there who have never quit on Dove Cameron, but Dove Cameron closed the book and told her story, her own version of it at least, of Descendants a long time ago. As far as I'm concerned, Kylie Control is a way more beautiful person than she's ever given credit for, and deserves more of a chance than she's ever been given. I know that the millions of fans who have supported Kylie Control will die Kylie Control fans, and that's what's so beautiful about Kylie Control fans and supporters is they will never quit on her, and they will do the same thing over and over again for Freya Sky, because it's Freya Sky or bust for many people out there. People listen to Freya every night before they fall asleep. People use Freya's music to relate to a situation that they can never make sense of in their own life. And for some reason, I seem to be the only guy on YouTube, the only guy who's ever reviewed Descendants of Zombies, because I'm really the only guy on YouTube who's ever reviewed Descendants of Zombies quite as often, or as often as what I had. And I seem to be the only guy who ever understands where fans are coming from. Because I know what it was like when I was 15 years old, so excited to get a ticket to Nickelback, or a ticket to Demi Lovato, or a ticket to Selena Gomez. It's such an honor to sit here in this chair every night and have fun with you guys, and share stories with you about how I became a fan of Descendants of Zombies. Because this never happened one day when one guy woke up and he just randomly said with his Mickey Mouse slippers on that he was going to record Descendants of Zombies videos, and I actually do have Mickey Mouse slippers. They're right over there. It happened for me because I saw something special in these stars. and I feel like I've been a part of their lives for forever. I've been their conscience, if anything, and I've been encouraging them that special things are indeed going to happen for them, and things like franchises like Descendants of Zombies will indeed have futures. Because I trusted in that, and I trusted in all of you that you were going to stay with me, and you were going to believe in my stories, at least my version of it, more than you probably were anybody's, because I believed in people like Freya and Kylie with all of my heart. I can't say that I really agree with how people have reviewed them and how people have treated them and looked down upon them, but especially Meg Donnelly, because Meg Donnelly was somebody from Zombies who was a beautiful person. Through and through, she was a beautiful person. I mean, what more needs to be said about Meg? Meg is a beautiful person. I don't know if her actual name's actually Megan or not, but she is a beautiful person. And I saw that in her. I saw that in her for the first time in February of 2018. Actually, in January of that year, because I was spending Hanukkah with my sister at the time, and I was over to her house, and they were airing promos for Zombies at the time. And you're saying to yourself, hey, Jonathan Clarke, you celebrate Hanukkah? Do you do the whole thing where you light candles and sit on the floor and stuff? No! But the thing is, that's what I was actually doing. I was celebrating Hanukkah, and I saw the promos for Zombies, and I thought this was going to be the coolest thing in the world. I really did. And I remember this beautiful girl just wanting to be accepted into the Disney niche as a Disney girl, the latest Disney girl who was going to go on to become everybody's favorite. And she did everything to try to relate to you guys. She recorded funny videos at home. She always met you at the meet and greets with a smile on her face. She had a lot of doubt about Zombies ever making it. Herself and Mila Manheim indeed had a lot of doubt. They expected probably 50 people to show up at Zombies conventions, and they would go there and a bajillion people would have showed up. They were like, oh my God, looking up from the trailer. They should have known that Zombies was going to explode, because you guys are forever supportive and you are diehard. And the one thing that I always wanted to encourage them about, because I always used to see these ridiculous videos that they would post about how they felt down about themselves and how their criteria wasn't meeting the aspects of a reviewer, and it was really ridiculous how they were being made to be feeling. And I wanted to be that one guy who would always say something nice about them and about their fans and about the community of fans who came together and created something so special, because you only ever live once. So because you only ever live once, and none of us have 9 lives unless we're Garfield the cat or Felix the cat, come to be honest with you guys, I've always wanted my own magic bag like Felix, and I've never had that. The closest I've had to that is a Mickey Mouse handbag, which is right over there, that I carry all my stuff in every day when I go to the store, but don't tell anybody that. But the thing is, guys, I've always appreciated how you guys have been forever supportive of Descendants of Zombies. I really have. And I've loved every single moment that I've ever had the chance to record relatable content for people who love it just as much as what I do. I never imagined that my YouTube channel would be the one that would become chosen as everybody's favorite Descendants of Zombies YouTube channel. But you guys have got to know one thing. I've really had the time of my life, because I don't know if any other niche about video games, TV shows, movies, pro wrestling is ever going to accept me the way that you guys did. So I dedicated my life to recording videos about Descendants of Zombies. This YouTube channel has never been monetized. It probably never will be monetized, and I don't even know if I'm going to apply for monetization opportunities in the YPP program, because I've never cared about it. All I've ever cared about is all of you, and providing you with commentaries and stories that actually make sense, that don't lead you astray, that help you make sense of what's happening around you. Because you go on a social media platform such as X and you read all these ridiculous stories on these fake fan sites that promise you this is going to happen for Descendants of Zombies. The only people who know what's going to happen for Descendants of Zombies are the creators themselves. I don't know what's going to happen with Descendants of Zombies, but I just offer you predictions and theories because I think it's the coolest thing in the world to believe there is a chance that you could find a mermaid out there in the sea. Because the sea is really big and it goes on for miles and miles and miles, really for forever. So, no matter how far apart we are from each other from the seas, the thing is there probably is a chance that you can find a mermaid out there. And I think there's time in really appreciating that. Take it from a guy who's lived on an island isolated for the rest of his life, from the majority of his life, really. I believe in mermaids probably more than anybody, and pirates and ghost stories about people going missing all the time. It really presents you with a beautiful opportunity to really bring stories to life. And having the chance to bring this story to life became the greatest honor of my life and the most fun that I've ever had. And I've never ever wanted any of you to forget that. If you ask me if I believe in mermaids, if I believe in sirens and witches and goblins and trolls and all that fun stuff, even unicorns, there's probably somebody out there with a checklist of fairy tale characters checking it off right now saying, hey, Jonathan Clarke, do you believe in gigantic fire-breathing dragons, like the one in How You Train Your Dragon? And go and check. And I say yes. And then they go on from that and they say, do you believe in vampires? Do you think they're real? Yes. And they check that. And they go on to troll. I've always believed in this stuff, okay? And I think that encouraging it is what makes every video that you ever push record for worth it, because you put yourself out there into that algorithm. With millions of people, there are 2.49 billion people who create YouTube every day. And because there are 2.49 billion people, you never know if you're going to make it. Only a small fraction of those YouTube content creators make it. I think in every 40 million YouTube content creators, only 230,000 roughly make it. And I'm one of those who are going to make it because I got the love and support of every fan of Descendants of Zombies. And I would just like to say thank you so much. Good evening to all of you. Thank you so much for once again having chosen this YouTube channel as your favorite Descendants of Zombies YouTube channel. And we will do this all over again bright and early tomorrow morning, which is a conversation that I can only hope that you're going to join me for, as crazy as the conversations seem to be that we have every single night. But it's been such a huge honor for me, so much fun to create all these wonderful videos for so many wonderful people. Thank you so much for having watched these videos.